Hi, this is Philip with the Yaleborn Library. We do 3D printing classes at the library. I often teach the 3D printing classes for adults, but also do some kids classes as well with Nikki. So for those of you who don't know that much about 3D printing yet, I have a 3D printer at my home, which is an Ender 3 Pro, but we do have 3D printers at the library as well, of course, for the classes. Our 3D printers are a little bit different, but they're more similar than they are different. The 3D printer at the library is a Lulzbot Mini. It has a lot more automation than mine does at home. 3D printers are getting pretty cheap now. The big difference between them usually is the features. So the one that we have at the library has a lot more features than mine, but we'll talk more about the printer and some of its accessories, as well as features that it has. But let's start off with talking about some of the 3D printed objects. So I have a couple things here. Here's one of the items that I recently 3D printed for a friend. It is made of PLA. PLA is a plastic, which stands for polylactic acid. The PLA that we use at the library and that I purchase is derived from corn. That corn, or because it's derived from corn, it is biodegradable, but it is still a plastic. So while we're having problems with plastics getting stuck in our oceans and not degrading fast enough environmentally in the ground, these are supposed to degrade faster, but again, they're plastic, so it could take longer than we may want to. Another kind of 3D printed material is TPU, or a flexible material. So as you can see, it has a lot of flex in it and it goes back to its original shape. This is an item that I printed to catch lint and hair in my shower drain. The one that I had broke, so instead of spending $5-6 or whatever it might be, I just designed it and printed it up. So instead of costing $5 or $6, it cost me, I don't know, 15-20 cents. And that's what 3D printers at home are really good for, is being able to solve problems and being able to fix things, or at least that's what I like using my form for. Of course, I do also just make knickknacks like the socks design, or for instance, my girlfriend designed a ring and I printed that out for her as well. One more last example is I like to play video games, and I usually just have my controllers sitting around on my desk or on a table. So we 3D printed, or I 3D printed, a stand for them. That way I have my PlayStation and my Xbox controller nicely set in place. The 3D printed material we get comes in big spools, 1 kilogram, which is roughly 2.2 pounds. They come in very thin strands. The ones that we use at the library is a little bit thicker because it is a different design, but both of them will print roughly the same. Here's an example of the TPU. As you can see, it's very flexible and almost a little bit rubbery. And depending on the brand and type of flexible material you could get some that is a lot more flexible than even that TPU is. Well, let's get our 3D printer started, and I'll get a print going and I'll describe to you what's happening and tell you the different parts of the printer. You even start your 3D printer, you have to 3D print a design. At the library, when we teach classes, we use a website called Tinkercad. Tinkercad is a free CAD software that allows you to do 3D design. It's great for anybody who has never done any design before, as well as people who have done design. It allows you to basically take three-dimensional objects and put them together to create whatever shape you wanted. All you have to do is have an email account, and it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to sign up for an account, and it's free. Everything is cloud-based, so you don't even have to have a powerful computer like you would normally if you're using an AutoCAD program. It's all web-based, so as long as your computer can run the internet, it could run Tinkercad, and you can do 3D design at home. To save a little bit of time, I've already downloaded a design and put it onto my computer from Tinkercad. We're gonna do the socks design again. My friend liked it, but she thought it was a little bit too big and wanted a smaller one in black so she could put it on her keychain and show off her sock spirit. So we're going to print it again. You can't just take a 3D design and put it into a printer. It will not work that way. What you need to do is first 3D design it and put it on your computer. Then you have to put it into a slicing software. The slicing software I like to use for my home computer as well as for the library is called Cura, C-U-R-A. It's a free and open source program, and it allows you to tell the 3D printer what you want it to do. So Cura allows you to add the temperature, how fast you want to print it, if you want to have support structures, and things of that nature. So I have the socks design already set up in Cura with the correct temperature and speed that I want to print it at. It is going to take about an hour and 40 minutes. So of course I'm not going to make you watch all of that, but we'll just get it started so you have an idea of what it's like. Once you have everything sliced, you hit save, which I did. So now let me safely remove it from my computer. All 3D printers are a little bit different. Some of them are like normal printers or 2D printers where you just print on paper that can connect wirelessly over the network. Mine has that ability too if I were to get some additional add-ons, but I have no interest in doing that. I can also connect my computer straight to the printer to control it, but again, that's not really necessary. You could save everything onto a little SD card, and that's really good enough for me. So I could load this up with 3, 4, 5 prints and just go to town for hours and hours printing stuff. Right. So I just put the SD card into the 3D printer. The next thing I'm going to do is get the printer set to print. All 3D printers have some sort of control. Either the computer plugged into it or they have their own little computer. My 3D printer, as well as the one at the library, has an LCD screen with a control. It's very rudimentary, but it does exactly what you need it to do. So I am going to tell it to print. And all I've done so far is told it to look at the SD card and print the socks file. Now I already have my 3D printer loaded up with black material because that's what she suggested, and it's going to be PLA again. PLA melts and prints at anywhere between 190 degrees Celsius to about 205, 210 degrees Celsius. Today I'm going to be printing it at about 200. I was printing at lower temperatures earlier, but they weren't coming out so good. The big temperature difference is because it depends on how dry and how warm the outside air is. During the winter, it seemed like because it was dry, lower temperatures were printing all right, but as we get into spring and we get lots of rain, the humidity wasn't allowing for me printing at 190 to work very well. It wasn't really sticking. So because of that, I put it up to 200 and now it's printing fine again. There is another temperature you need to watch out for besides that 200 degrees is the plate temperature. So the printer will print onto this plate here in a couple moments, And that plate needs to be at a higher temperature as well. Otherwise, it's not likely to stick. Because when objects cool down after being heated up, they shrink. That little bit of shrinking could pull it off the plate and then create a giant mess. Because if it comes off before it's done printing, well, then you're going to have to start all over. So the print bed is set to 60 degrees Celsius so that the plastic melts and cools on the bed, but not so much that it starts shrinking and contracting and popping off of it. Once the entire print is done, then the bed will cool down and I could pull it off without any sort of problems. I just realized, for those of you that might not know Celsius, for Fahrenheit, this is, there are converters online, but the important thing is that about 200 degrees Celsius is almost 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is almost the max temperature of an oven. So I am printing about the same temperature you would put your casserole or pie or pizza in the oven for. So it is very dangerous and you need to be careful. The printers that we have at the library have enclosures so that people can't easily get their hands in there and cause accidents. The print head right here, this is what gets to a very high temperature. This is also why we usually have tools around, such as pliers, scrapers, and cloth. This is so that we can wipe things off, protect my hands if I need to touch something. The same thing with the needle nose pliers and tweezers. When it's printing at hot temperatures, the last thing you want to do is stick your hands in there. You want to use some sort of tool instead. All right, the printer has heated up to the temperature that we wanted, which is 200 degrees Celsius and 60 degrees in the plate. And that's why it's starting to move now. What it's going to do is it's going to print one pass. It's going to go back and forth just to make sure that it's printing clearly. If it's not printing clearly, I'm going to have to stop it. But let's see how it goes. It should be fine. I've printed a couple things the past couple of days without any issues at all. And it looks like it's going okay. Had a little bit of a loose piece there. You want to remove those from the bed because if it gets caught up, it could get stuck into your print permanently or it could mess up your print altogether. Now that it did its pass and it was successful, I let it continue to print. And it looks like it's printing very nicely. It's starting off by making a single layer. 3D printing is additive instead of subtractive. Let me start over. There's two different manufacturing types. There is additive manufacturing and subtractive. Subtractive is when you take away material to create an object, such as a CNC machine or you just taking a knife and whittling a piece of wood. That's subtractive, meaning you had more material and you made it less to create something. Now 3D printers are nice because they have very little waste material because they're additive. It usually, for the most part, only prints what it needs to print, which means that you start with nothing and you keep adding material until you've built up and then you have something. That's one of the great things about 3D printing, is because it's an additive material, it has little waste. Every once in a while you're going to have a mishap, or you're going to set your settings wrong or things of that nature, but for the most part it's pretty good and it's pretty efficient. It doesn't mess up too often unless you're trying to do something crazy. Because it's kind of hard to see what's going on and I don't really want to pick up my phone and make everybody sick, the 3D printer kind of is working like a hot glue gun. The nozzle here is being heated up to 200 degrees, like I had said, and it pushes the 3D printed material, the filament, all the way through into it. And as it heats up, it goes onto the plate. And you might see that there's also a fan here. So this fan is spinning and blowing onto the plastic as it comes out, which cools it off fast enough that it solidifies. When you use a hot glue gun, you usually have to put the glue in, hold it together, and then after a couple seconds it cools down and it's solid and holds things together. Well, for 3D printing you want it to do pretty quickly so that you could print on top of it again and again and again and again as you build up your layers. So you want that fan to cool it off and you want it to solidify onto the plate, which is what it's doing. Sometimes, because 3D printing is an additive and builds up layer by layer, there are times when you need to build support structures. So as you can see from this ring, if I was to print it like this, the bottom of the flower would touch the plate, but the ring part wouldn't because it's not perfectly flat. For items like this, you will build breakaway material that will hold on to the object. So for a ring, we built a raft which expands the point for which it touches the bed, as well as it builds up support structures which easily breaks away, just so that the ring has something to sit on and be printed on. And you have to do this quite often for any sort of design where you might need to not build completely flat, such as if you're printing maybe a puppy or a cat. It's going to have its 4 legs and then its top body part. So you'll need support structure all around where the legs do not connect and support it. Well, that's it for 3D printing. If you want to get more information and learn how to design and have some of your designs printed out, I'll be here waiting for you at the library when we reopen up. We have a 3-part class. The first class, we demonstrate our 3D printer and teach you a little bit about 3D design, the basics. We create a name tag. The second class, we do a more complex 3D design, and we usually learn how to make a phone stand or a box with a hidden bottom. And for the last class, we learn how to take everyday objects or broken objects and fix them and or duplicate them so that we don't have to go out and buy things. We can just design them on our own instead. Well, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope to see you all soon at the library. Bye-bye.